Welcome again to Bake Your Way Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you, I'm going to be doing two different things here, two different recipes, even though they're not recipes, they're mainly methods, of making butterscotch and making caramel. Now caramel usually just involves granulated sugar and a little bit of water, and you can really adjust the ratio, and everyone's got a different ratio. Some people make caramel just with granulated sugar, wait for it to brown and for it to become a liquid form, and some people use water. I use water, so I use 2 parts granulated sugar to 1 part water. So I'm going to be showing you how to do caramel. A simple, easy caramel, and it's so that you can create kind of crystal caramel pieces for the top of cakes to garnish, or even as a sauce. If you're looking more for a sauce though, I would recommend a butterscotch recipe, which involves milk or usually heavy cream, but in our case we're going to be doing a butterscotch with milk, and usually involves an egg yolk for added richness, using brown sugar for that deeper molasses flavor. So we're going to be doing both recipes for you today, and we're right at the stove here. So for the butterscotch, you're going to want a heavy saucepan, like one with a heavy bottom, preferably because you don't want it to burn. So I'm figured instead of doing both at once to make things more confusing, we're going to do one at a time. So we're going to start off by doing the butterscotch. So it's very easy to do, very simple to make. What you're going to want to do is get a saucepan, take your brown sugar, and again, all the recipes are available at bakeyourway.com, so take a look at the website and you'll see all the information. So you're going to take your brown sugar, and then I've got some butter here, and I did add a little bit of shortening because I ran out of butter, but you should definitely use butter if you have it available. I'm just going to grab a spatula. There we go. I'm going to add in my egg yolk. Add about 1 to 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, and that will offset the sweetness of with the sugar and the butter and everything. It'll kind of cut back on the richness a bit. Add a little bit of a pinch of salt. We want that sweet and salty. So then we're going to put this over medium heat, and my burner might start ticking. It does that a lot. And we're just going to give this a bit of a head start before we add in the milk. And you want to be watching this carefully because it can burn very quickly. But basically we just want to make sure everything is fully incorporated, and that we have all the butter melted, and that the sugar dissolves with it. In terms of the difference, and as you can see, it's already happening. It's becoming a lot more runny, which is exactly what we're looking for. This is our base for it. We are going to add in a bit of cornstarch because we're making this without whipping cream. Whipping cream is kind of what gives you that texture, the thickness. We have to use a bit of cornstarch to add to that thickness that we want from it. And you can see already, as soon as cornstarch is added into a hot liquid, it immediately starts working. It immediately thickens up. So now that that's done, we are going to go ahead and add our milk. And like I've mentioned before, the fat content of the milk is up to you. The richness obviously will differ. If you want it richer, you add a bit more. If you want it richer, you just add a little bit more. Add like a whole milk or a cream. And as I mentioned, it does start ticking away. So we're going to let this go for a bit. It's going to take about 3 to 4 minutes, and after that I will show you the next step. The mixture has really is bubbling. This is exactly what we're looking for, and we're going to continue cooking this for a few minutes for it to thicken. And you're looking for, if you take like a wooden spoon, and I can show you, take a wooden spoon, if you stir it, it should be quite, like it's getting thick. As you can see, as it's bubbling, that cornstarch is activating. And what we're looking for eventually is the butterscotch will remain on a wooden spoon, and if you put your finger through it, it won't be mark. It'll just mark. So I'll show you what I mean in a few minutes. So you just want to keep stirring because you want to avoid any burning that might occur. It absolutely smells delicious. And this is both caramel and butterscotch, they're very versatile. They can be used to garnish, or they can be used as a sauce. Like this is great for a sauce, or even a base for a cake recipe, which I can make if you are interested. So as you can see, it's still bubbling. It's probably going to take another 3 or 4 minutes. You're just going to want to continuously stir until it really thickens. And then as soon as it reaches that stage, I will show you what it's supposed to look like when it's done, and then we will put it away in a container. There we go. And what you're going to want to do is cover it and put it in the fridge. It will thicken even further. Now, just as a side note, just a caution, because we did use an egg yolk, it's very important to make sure that there are no lumps. So if you feel like you've gotten some lumps, you can put it through a sieve, and that'll make sure that you get any, if any of the egg yolk curdled, that will get it right out there, because you don't want that in your sauce. So I'm just going to clean this up, and then we will go ahead and start the caramel. First, I took a little bit of the butterscotch, and I'm going to take a test and tell you what I think. That's really nice. It's got a very sweet flavor, so if you have a big sweet tooth, this is really up your alley. It does also have a very buttery flavor, so it's an absolute perfect way to top like ice cream, even Greek yogurt. I think that'd be great. If you don't want ice cream, something a bit lighter, Greek yogurt would work great for that. Or even as just a topping for a cake. Great option. I hope you give that a try. So now we're going to move on to the caramel. And this is the one that's a little bit more, you got to be very careful, because making caramel is very tedious because you need to watch carefully. You're going to need, as I mentioned before, the ratio can differ a little bit. It's usually, with caramel, you need granulated sugar and water. In my case, I'm using 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. And so what I'm going to do is, I have a skillet here, and you'll need a skillet. Try to get the sugar spread evenly distributed on the bottom. And we're going to add our water, just like a little bit over the top, and just shake it so that all the sugar is moisturized. Now, very important. So we're going to turn on our heat to medium. Sometimes my burner just doesn't want to turn on. Okay, so here we go. Very important. Do not stir it, do not touch it, but you will shake it at times. Caramel is very tedious because if it's not worked correctly, the sugar can crystallize and become firm as a rock, and you'll be stuck for hours under hot water trying to clean it. The other thing too is that caramel can seize quickly. Basically meaning, as soon as you make it, if you immediately put it on something cold, it will seize up, it'll firm up, and that doesn't work. So the key is to make sure you watch it carefully, and as soon as it becomes runny, immediately pour it over whatever it is you're making, because if you don't, it will harden. So I'm just doing a little bit as an example, and I can already see the water started to boil now, or just sizzle, not boil yet. What you're going to want to do is just keep watch of it. because eventually what's going to happen is it's going to turn brown, and I'm going to show you that, and it'll take another 3 or 4 minutes at least. And as soon as it starts to brown, you want to keep watching it and keep it on medium heat until it reaches an amber caramel color. So you can see the heat is really picking up. You can give it a few shakes every now and then, but we really do not want the sugar to crystallize. That's very important. So I'm going to let this go, and I'm going to show you as soon as it starts turning brown. It's turned on my fan because this can get smoky. You can see here the brown color is starting to turn. I hope you can see this, but you can see here it's working. The caramel is developing. We can see that color change. We're on the right track. So we want to keep watching this until it turns to an amber color, and that's when we know to turn it off. Take a look at that beautiful color we're seeing. It's turned to a brown color. We have our caramel. It's absolutely incredible how just granulated sugar and water can turn into this delicious flavor that a lot of us enjoy. And this is going to happen very quickly. You can see just now how much change there's been. We want to keep this going. The reason it's very smoky is there's bound to be a few specks of sugar that come on the ends, which causes it to be very smoky. And we're almost done. It's getting there. We're not quite there yet, but we're really close. Look how dark this corner is. We're getting there. I've got a piece of parchment paper here on a cookie sheet, which I am immediately going to place this caramel because we are just about done. Just a few more seconds. Oh yeah, here we go. This is our amber color. This is our signal. So I'm immediately going to pour it over onto a piece of parchment paper because, as I mentioned before, it's going to seize very, very, very quickly. So I'm going to give this a couple shakes. I just don't want it to... it is extremely hot. I should have mentioned that before. I was just making sure it didn't go off the parchment paper. Be very careful. As soon as caramel gets in this way, it's extremely hot. So be sure to use very good, proper care. Make sure that when you spread your caramel, if you're letting it set, to put it on a piece of parchment paper. Otherwise, you will not be able to get it off. So we've got our caramel here. You can see it. I put it on for maybe a little bit too long. That's the thing about caramel. That's why I usually decide if I want to make something with the caramel type of flavor, I usually prefer butterscotch because it's easier to make and it's not as tedious. Just going to move this here. You can see for the most part it's set a lot. If I lift this sheet, it won't do much. Now, you can let it just set at room temperature or put it in the fridge. I'm just going to put it aside for now, and I'll show you what it looks like later on.